things that I've seen as well, and again, I kind of shift gears a little bit on this one as we go through these last kind of couple of points. These were more just reflective of trends in the industry that I think, again, underpin this whole conversation. I touched on earlier the shift from cost centre to profit centre has been going on for a very, very long time. Equally so as the reactive to proactive. I think I personally see that as a next part of that conversation. You know, as we move away from cost centre, we want to be moving away to more towards being proactive in our service, because we're delivering a better service. We are delivering something that, you know, we're moving towards guarantees of uptime rather than stringent SLAs, etc. So I've seen that happening for quite some time. That shift has been coming for many years. I've seen us as an industry move away from traditional break fix, more to proactive. And the study, again, reflected on this. We put a few questions in there just to help the benchmarking and set the tone for the organisations as well. It's interesting to see how, you know, the organisations that are more advanced in certain areas, are they advanced in their thinking around customer centricity? The continuation of the shift that I've been seeing was absolutely evidenced by the study's findings. Now, 50% of companies, field service companies, stating that their work is mostly proactive, predominantly proactive is the way the question was set. I mean, further to that, over half of the companies, and this really does dovetail incredibly strongly with a set of a response that FSN Research did with a different set of respondents. So we're really starting to see some very clear kind of trends in the industry. Around, in this instance, it was 57% of companies. In the previous study, it was 61%. So very similar ballparks here of companies offering some form of advanced services, some form of servitization within their service portfolio. And what I thought was really interesting here is this seems to be a concerted effort now, because over half of the companies in this study, which is a new question that we put out amongst FSN Research, we wanted to know who was driving those shifts, whether it was customer pull or service provider push. Really interesting study, set of results here. As far as we can see, it was evidence of growing requirement for the solutions on the customer side, but predominantly we were seeing it as a strategic offering being put out. What I really saw come to the fore was that actually there was a huge chunk, about a third of companies, where it was co-creation, where it's the service provider working directly alongside one of their customers to bring a new service offering to the fore. I think that will have been accelerated, going back to the pandemic. I think that will have been accelerated out of necessity, but I think that all of the studies that I've seen, I think that is the way that tends to be. I see very little success with customer push, service provider push. I see industry pull or customer pull always drives servitization, but co-creation is the model that I'm starting to see that really solidifies it, and the study highlighted that. And then the other trend that we touched on, which again I think is driven by the pandemic, is this shift towards the blended workforce, to utilising third-party labour. Again, the study showed this to be the case. 36% of workers within the response set of field organisations were now third-party, and we did quite a complicated bit of breakdown on that study to get the feel for that. But that's an overall percentage based on all of the response sets. However, the gig economy is something that I've talked about quite a lot. It seems to be not the right fit. It seems to be very much subcontractor rather than individual gig economy workers, which may change. But only 18% of those third-party workers were gig workers, the rest coming from that big pool of subcontractor firms. So a lot of different shifts that we're seeing there. I think the shift to both of these, I personally think are dependent on having the technological infrastructure we've seen in place. I firmly believe this. I think that to effectively run a servitization strategy, you have to have the dots connected, Kevin, to use your phrase. You have to have the understanding of the asset and the customer, and I think that's the same to a degree with successfully leveraging the blended workforce. I've often said that within field service there's so many moving parts. Taking a third party workforce and trying to get that onto the into the mix That's another layer of complexity. So I'm a firm believer that we need the technology to make these work, and I think what's happened here, and I'm adding my own interpretation to the data, but I think what's happened here is that we've hit this point of, to a degree of maturation. Absolutely take your point, Danny, Kevin, about the maturity and evolving. But I think we've hit a point of maturation in the technology that is allowing these new ways of working to flourish. And I think the pandemic has been a catalyst to just push us into that. Kevin, that's my theory. That's my hypothesis. Shoot it down, or take it apart. Tell me where I've got it wrong. Or where I've
Absolutely,
got it right.
absolutely, yeah. And I think with this area, it's I mean, there's a lot. I guess there's a lot in there, but I do think you're right. I think the to to provide that workforce model of contractors or gig economy workers, you need to have the underlying systems in place. You need to have all the dots joined up. You need to have that data flowing through organization so that you're able to provide them with the right information to deliver the service that you expect. Now, the whole emphasis here is about preserving that customer experience, the best possible experience that you can. Therefore, an external contractor represents a bit of a risk to that target. So therefore, you want to enable them as much as you can with the information that you need or they need to hand to be able to service that customer in the best possible way that they can, and equally provide you back information to your organization to then look at how you're performing as an organization. But yeah, as I said, I think the underlying platforms need to be in place to be able to provide that service and that capability. Now, with the gig economy, I think we talked about AR, we talked about remote assists and that sort of thing as well. So you're seeing now again, within organizations, you have an engineering group which are very highly skilled, been in the industry for a number of years. And the last thing organizations want to do is to necessarily have them on the road, visiting customers, etc., fixing machinery or whatever it might be. So actually bringing in, I guess, a workforce which is quite not at the same sort of level, but giving them the support they need back at HQ for them to be able to carry out tasks which are possible by that route. Again, that's another a shift that we're seeing. That means you could manage a workforce of blended both FTEs as well as contractors and gig economy workers to allow them to be as effective with the support of a senior technician supporting them over their shoulder. And I think that's again a really important shift that we're seeing in the market, and certainly a lot of discussions we're having with our customers as to the best blend as an organization that they can sort of bring, both to preserve costs but equally to keep providing that customer experience that they'll be judged on in terms of their company reputation. So it's a big topic, this one, Kris, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the other guys can add to that.